This week, Facebook took what some think is a long overdue step, banning white nationalism and white separatism from its platform. The company had already taken action against white supremacists following that deadly rally in Charlottesville 2 years ago. It's been 2 weeks since an anti-immigrant separatist attacked 2 mosques in New Zealand, an event that was no doubt a catalyst for Facebook to take action.
Facebook is broadening its definition of banned hate speech and taking action against white nationalism and white separatism.
It's a move some say is frustratingly late.
I'm just so surprised that there has to be clarity here. Why can't they just ban all racial things and it be like that from the get-go?
In a post, Facebook says it will now ban phrases like, "I am a proud white nationalist," or "Immigration is tearing this country apart." New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says it's a move in the right direction.
Arguably, these categories should always have fallen within the community guidelines of hate speech. But nevertheless, it's positive the clarification has now been made.
But it raises other questions.
Facebook owns WhatsApp. Will its AI dip into our messages? What about YouTube and Twitter, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia?
Facebook says it will direct anyone using hate speech to the website Life After Hate, a nonprofit founded by ex-white supremacists like Tony McAleer.
Sometimes these people they're angry, but they've just never been heard. And we start at that point and work to try and rehumanize them.
It's a start. You know, I had sort of a cynical view of that Life After Hate website, and then after listening to that guy, who has a really compelling story to tell about growing up as a skinhead and the hatred and the violence that he perpetrated himself, and then his slow turnaround that had to do with having children and all that. But, I mean, for one, I just feel kind of relieved, because when you're trying to parse the difference as a journalist or anybody else between white nationalism, separatism, or supremacy, it's very muddy. And I understand what Facebook was originally doing. I think, you know, after Charlottesville, they're trying to say, well, there are sects of across the. They were saying, for instance, Basque separatists. That's a movement, and there are certain other separation groups. But now they say when it involves hate speech, it's essentially all the same thing.
And it's white hate speech.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think where does it stop? You say you can't use a phrase like immigration is tearing this country apart. I mean, remember that hate speech is protected speech constitutionally. It is protected speech. So Facebook is picking the winners and the losers as a sense. They're picking what we want to sanitize from our website. I'm not saying that I agree with hate speech, but it's important to remember that where does this stop? At what point do you start saying, okay, we've banned all these different things, and you can't say this, you can't say, you better be across the board and ban all hate speech, and they're all forms of hate speech. So I really wonder where it's going.
Just to hop on what you said, a couple points I want to make. Someone can still go out on the street corner and say whatever Facebook isn't allowing them to, right? This
Absolutely.
is not. This is. It is a virtual public sphere, but technically it's not. The same as other areas that are protected by the First Amendment. That being said, this phrase "immigration is tearing this country apart" in what we read doing our research for this segment, it's not just that phrase that apparently is going to get you banned. It's immigration is tearing this country apart. White separatism is the only answer, right? So I have the same question that you do. If it's just the former phrase, immigration is tearing this country apart, or as President Trump frequently says, illegal immigration is a crisis that's horrible for the country, does that get you bumped or not? I totally buy the idea that white separatist or white nationalist is basically a way of laundering white supremacist viewpoints, but I do think they're going to find themselves in a verbally slippery slope here.
Absolutely.
Facebook has a mess on its hands. They're thrashing around. They don't know what to do. First of all, I'll point out that this comes about on the same week that the Department of Housing and Urban Development is suing Facebook for allowing ads for housing to go up on the site that exclude African Americans and other minorities. So that's lovely. And in the past, you could take out an ad targeting Jew haters if you wanted to. It's just horrendous. You've also got this problem of you've almost got 2 parallel internets. For hundreds of millions of people, Facebook essentially is the internet at this point. And they're trying to curate speech and ban this and allow that, and they don't really know quite what to do. And then on the other side, it's the wide open internet. You can't censor that. This has no effect on 8chan, for instance,
which was what the New Zealand guy
right,
was.
exactly, or any of these other horrendous places. So I guess I would give Facebook a modified, limited thumbs up on this, but they don't know what they're doing.
Well, no, they don't know what they're doing because they started out as a site which you would put your vacation pictures on. And
well, it was so Mark Zuckerberg could check out girls.
And right.
And exactly. But that's the original history that morphed to that. It was never supposed to be anything where we were sharing real information. Okay, so now and then they refused to accept their responsibility when that changed. Having said that, there's a real definition, a federal definition of when hate speech becomes hate speech. There's some lines about what incites violence, and that's where it is. And, we're sort of throwing around some of these terms here because I'm not quite sure where the finite thing is. So you ask, where does it stop? It stops there. So it's really about the inciting of violence and what FBI and other people who work in this arena understand to be triggers. It seems to me, I would agree with you, immigration is tearing this country apart, does not seem to be one from my non-police, FBI, whatever status. But apparently, they have some insight about what has triggered in the past in combination, as you point out, with some other things.
So Facebook's the arbiter of that now?
Well, they are on their own site. That's what they're saying. Yeah, they're saying, let's go back to Adam's point. You can go outside, say the same thing. You're perfectly free to do that. But on their site, they can make a determination. We don't want to take responsibility that this platform is being used in that way. And as such, messy or not, we've made a determination that this is what we're going to do.